Good evening, my name is Risma Novita. I am from C class 2020. My student number is 200508080. On this occasion, I'd like to explain the material about the main issues in language maintenance and shift in EFL context. This is the discussions about the topic. The first one is language shifts in different communities. The second one is language deaths and language loss. The third one is factor contributing to language shifts. And the last one is how can a minority language be maintained? The first material is about language shifts in different communities. There are many different social reasons for choosing a particular code or variety in a multilingual community. How do economic and political factors influence language choice? The various constraints on language choice faced by different communities. There are three, such as migrant minorities, non-migrant communities, and the last one is migrant majorities. I'll explain one by one. Migrant minorities. Speaking good English has been regarded as a sign of successful assimilations, and it was widely assumed that meant abandoning the minority language. So, most migrant families gradually shift from using Gujarati or Italian or Vietnamese to each other most of the time to using English. For the example, immigrants who look and sound different are often regarded as threatening by majority group members. There is pressure to conform in all kinds of ways. Language shifts to English, for instance, has often been expected of migrants in predominantly monolingual countries such as England, the USA, Australia, and New Zealand. The second one is non-migrant communities. Language shifts is not always the result of migrations. Political, economic, and social changes can occur within a community, and this may result in linguistic change too. The last one is migrant majorities. Most Aboriginal people in Australia and many American Indian people in the USA have similarity, lost their language over 4 or 5 generations of colonial rule. The indigenous people were swamped by English. The language of the dominant groups and their number were designed by warfare and disease. The result of colonial economic and political control was not the Glaucia, with varying degrees of bilingualism, countries, as ponds in many African, Asian, and South American countries. But the more or less complete eradications of the many indigenous languages over time, the communities shift to the colonizer language, English, and their own language died out. Alright, the next is about language deaths and language loss. With the spread of majority group language into more and more dominance, the number of contexts in which individuals use the ethnic language diminishes. The language usually retreats till it is used only in the home, and finally it is retreats to such personal activities as counting, frying, and framing. In the wider community, the language may survive for ritual or ceremonial occasions, but those who use it in this context will be few in number and their fluency is often restricted to prayers and set speechless or incantations. The next is about factors contributing to language shifts. There are three. The first one is economic, social, and political factors. The second one is demographic factors, and the third one is attitudes and values. For the economic, social, and political factors, the reasons are often economic, but they may also be political, as in the case of Israel. Obtaining work is the most obvious economic reasons for learning another language. In English, dominate countries, for instance, people learn English in order to get good jobs like that. This results in bilingualisms. Bilingualisms is always a stable diglossics communities demonstrate. It does not always result in shifts. About the demographic factors are also relevant in accounting for the speed of language shifts. Resistance to language shifts tends to last longer in rural than in urban areas. From the centers of political power for longer, and they can meet most of their social needs in the ethnic or minority language. For the last one is attitudes and values. When the language is seen as an important symbol of ethnic identity, it is generally maintained longer. Positive attitudes support effort to use the minority language in a variety of dominance, and this helps people resist the phrases from the majority group to switch to their language. Alright, the last one is how can a minority language be maintained? That is our questions, right? So the answer is these social psychologists suggest that we can predict the likelihood that a language will be maintained by measuring its ethnologistic speedily. There's components, three components are involved. Firstly, the status of the language as indicated by attitude toward it. Secondly, the size of the group who use the language and their distributions. For the example, concentrated or saturated. And thirdly, the extent to which the language enjoys institutional support. All right, that's all from my presentation today. Thank you for listening.